What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Today, I want to talk about something very, very interesting. I want to talk about random news in crypto because something crazy has happened. The Bitcoin spot ETF has just been approved in Europe, which is very, very interesting. But the thing is, it has not been approved in US yet, which is very, very interesting. The SECs continue to delay it, and I want to talk about that. I want to talk about how that can actually uh, improve Bitcoin's position and how it could help Bitcoin. But before we do that, first thing I want to do is check on Bitcoin because as you guys can see, since my last live stream, Bitcoin has done a couple of things. It has actually tapped this white line once again, barely breaking out of the yellow line down below, but looks like it's confirming support. And if this is a confirmation of support and it does rise up, then we could probably reach 30,300 like I talked about in my previous live stream. This could be a nice small trend up in the short term, and if we break $30,000 and break out of this, we could see some bullish momentum to 33. But here's the problem. We still do not see any volume. There's no volume. Bitcoin continues to squeeze. We continue to go in this sideways looking momentum. We continue, if I take my Fibonacci retracement, drag it from the top to the bottom, we continue to just move around inside of these two big support and resistance areas for already since the beginning of July. We have not been doing almost anything, and people are still wondering what's going to happen. Well, this news might change stuff because if we go over and read this news, you can see that Europe's first spot Bitcoin ETF was just listed. If we go down over here, Europe will see the first spot Bitcoin ETF traded before the US. That is what CoinDesk says. And this is what's very interesting. SEC delays its Bitcoin ETF. They do not want to open their new Bitcoin ETF. Instead, the first ETF that's actually going to be open to trade is going to be in Europe. Now, the way ETF is going to help is that it will allow stock traders, traditional traders, to trade Bitcoin from the stock market. It'll allow the Bitcoin to be accepted by the vast majority because it will now be open on the stock market to trade. So the demand will be rising, which will cause the price to increase. At least it should. But ever since this ETF got released, we have actually just seen a slight pump up and actually a fall down in the short term. So we are not reacting that well. And that is because the SEC also delayed its Bitcoin ETF. So this ETF right over here, uh, this is not the first ETF that actually came out. There were a lot of ETFs that came out before this ETF in America. One of them being BlackRock, that was the first ETF. Another ETF being, for example, the ARK ETF that actually got delayed. Now, what I want to say is that there's a reason that the SEC keeps delaying it. And this is not the first time it delayed it. If we go over to the Bitcoin magazine, the Twitter, like they said, Friday morning, the Security and Exchange Commission, SEC, they have delayed it for the second time. This is a different one. This is 21 shares. They have delayed another ETF for the second time. And what's interesting is that they could go again. And people are wondering, why are they not releasing this? Well, the reason they usually delay this or they reject the ETFs are because they don't have enough data and they want to check to make sure that it cannot be being changed and manipulated by the market. That's why BlackRock got rejected the first time by Bitcoin and by SEC. That's why BlackRock got rejected with its first ETF, and it caused Bitcoin to start falling down. But that was because SEC thought that the Bitcoin ETF was not secure enough. So instead, BlackRock came back and they gave the ETF back to SEC. Now Coinbase as its new security, a way to secure the market. But here's the thing, SEC is still not allowing new ETFs to come in, which is very, very weird. As soon as these ETFs will release, they're going to happen very, very fast, and Bitcoin will react bullish. But for some reason, Bitcoin is not reacting bullishly with this Europe ETF. We still got to give it a couple more days. But for some reason, so far, Bitcoin has not reacted bullishly with this so far, even though technically it should. Now, That's not the only thing. We can actually go on to a different chart and check Bitcoin, because if you check Bitcoin right over here, I have this indicator called the Bollinger Bands, which shows how fast and how much momentum Bitcoin is actually taking with it. And you can tell a lot of things with this indicator. For example, you can see that Bitcoin's Bollinger Bands are squeezing. These bands are going closer and closer to Bitcoin. This can show a sign of a huge change and a huge price shift incoming, whether it's up or it's down. That this last time the Bollinger Bands were this tight was all the way back over here in January, when the Bollinger Bands caused us to squeeze so tight, and after this huge market pump up that caused us to rise to $31,000. That was a big rally, but that was the Bollinger Bands squeezing. Now, as long as if we go on the weekly time frame, as long as we stay above this moving average right over here, which is the 20-week moving average, as long as we stay above this level, we are fine. And by the way, speaking of moving averages, we are in fact continuing to confirm support on the moving averages. We continue on the weekly time frame to continue to confirm support on the 20-week moving average. That is the biggest thing for Bitcoin right now. As long as we continue to stay above this moving average, we will see this trend up. And even though we have this slight bearish trend in the short term, in the long term, we still see this huge trend up. And the question is this the reversal? Are we about to see a pump up? And that will probably mostly depend on this ETF. If SEC opens the ETF for its customers, for people to start trading, if the SEC finally allows the ETFs to come out, that will be super, super bullish for Bitcoin. But some people think that it's going to take 4 to 6 months for them to be released. Some people think it's going to take 24 hours, and some people think it's going to take up to the next Bitcoin halving for the next ETF to be released. And that could cause Bitcoin to have this bearish momentum in the short term for a while longer, or at least go sideways, how we have been doing for already 2 months. We could keep doing that. We could keep building this tension until the ETF comes out. And we will continue to build this tension until we figure out to either break above 30,300 or below the $28,300 level. If we break below this trend, that will be super bearish. If we break above this level, that could take us super high. And for now, we've just been bouncing around. The crypto fear and greed has also not been changing. It's still 52. As you can see, if I go over here to the 3-month time frame, it's just been going sideways. People cannot understand what Bitcoin's going to do. They're not reacting at all. They cannot understand what Bitcoin's next trajectory will be. And so until we figure this out, until we see some momentum, we do not see some momentum in the volume either. Until we see some momentum, nothing's going to happen. And the question is this happening? The altcoin season's going to happen? Well, we can actually take a look at that. If I open a different chart and check on the Bitcoin dominance, which I can turn on by starting BTC-D, we can see that the Bitcoin dominance is actually also rising. It's not the Bitcoin that's rising in the long term. The dominance is also rising. It was, if I go onto the weekly time frame, in this huge recession down at 38%, and that was because most people were actually entering altcoins, but now it's rising back. And the biggest key area for the Bitcoin for it to break is around the 60% mark. Bitcoin dominance measures how much money Bitcoin compared to other altcoins. So if we have a lot of people entering Bitcoin, and if the Bitcoin dominance rises past 60%, that can be a clear sign that the Bitcoin bull market is about to start. But when it's this low, or for example, when it fell back down here in March, we can tell that people are moving to altcoins, and the altcoin can happen. As long as the Bitcoin dominance is actually below this area, the 60% line, we can see sideways action, and we can see altcoins starting to rise. And we can actually take a look at some altcoins. If we go on to altcoins, and for example, look on a crypto called XRP, that's the XRP market cap. My bad, that's the right place. Here you go. If we look at, for example, XRP, I know it has been dumping, but it has slowly started actually going up. For example, we look at a different coin, a different altcoin. How about Chainlink? Uh, it's also stopped falling down. What's a good coin for us to check out? A good altcoin. Uh, Philcoin maybe. Philcoins also started to go up. The altcoins have stopped falling and started going up in the short term. If we go on the long term, of course, all these altcoins have been falling and suffered the huge downside of Bitcoin falling down in the long term, just like Bitcoin. But the question is Bitcoin gonna just be going sideways because of the Bitcoin dominance? Well, if the ETF comes out, this could be super bullish news that will cause the Bitcoin dominance to skyrocket. And if it reaches 60%, then we can know that the Bitcoin bull market will happen. And until then, we will continue to have this huge increase in tension. And the longer we wait, the longer this tension happens. You can see that this sideways action has been happening for already over 2 months. And the longer this happens, the bigger the pump will happen. Last time, it wasn't that bad. It was actually going downhill, and people understood that this was just a small recession. This time, people are wondering why it's just going sideways. That's primarily because everybody nobody understand what's going to happen. There's not enough momentum in the market. That's why this is not happening. We need momentum. We have no momentum. And until that momentum comes, we will not see anything. Well, somebody asked, would you please illustrate Fibonacci retracements? Actually, that's perfect. Perfect. So Fibonacci retracements are very, very important for telling Bitcoin and showing us where Bitcoin's going to fall down to. Give me a second. Let me drink some water. Fibonacci retracements are essential for showing us where Bitcoin will fall down to. Fibonacci retracements allow us to see the small reversals and try to figure out when the reversal will end. For example, here's a Fibonacci retracement. I can take it from the local low all the way to the top of the high, drag it like this, that's the appropriate way to drag it, and see different support areas. And these are actually mathematical support areas that Bitcoin usually falls down to. For example, 0.5. All that simply is the halfway point. Sometimes Bitcoin uses the halfway point very, very often to stop its fall. It falls down to the halfway point, reverses, and starts rising up. But usually it falls down between the halfway point and this point right over here, which is called the golden ratio. This is the most place for Bitcoin to fall down to, the golden ratio. And it falls between 0.5 and 0.618, sometimes tapping 0.7. This is not a perfect indicator, but these three lines are the most often place for Bitcoin to fall. And as you guys can see, Bitcoin never actually reached this level. It's actually been in the middle of 0.382, 0.5, never actually reached it. That's another reason we might see it down. And you can see that this 0.382 level is actually very, very big because we have tapped it once, twice, three times, four times, and the fifth time right over here. It's actually acting as a huge support level. If we break this level, we could see a fall back down to this level, which will be 28,300. The cool thing is that 28,300 is, if I turn on the chart, my other chart with actually price points, 28,300 is in fact this level right over here. So a fall down to 28,300 would be a perfect area for us to fall down to if we break this line right over here. So the big decision point for Bitcoin is about to happen today, tomorrow, within this week, within the next 7 days. The biggest point for Bitcoin is about to happen. We will see. If we confirm support and start rising to 30,300, then if we break 30,300, we will rise up. But if we break this point right over here, well, we can see a short-term fall down to around 28,300, maybe even falling down a bit more. But this doesn't mean that the bullish trend has ended. This actually strengthens the bullish trend because we see a larger reversal. If we go back in time and check out the Fibonacci retracement in some other areas, we can see that, for example, this previous pump that took us all the way up to $31,000 actually caused us to fall to 0.5 once again, also to this orange trend line. Not just that, but if we go into this dump right over here, the first leg up after we fell down to $15,000, it fell straight to the 0.618. That is a perfect showcase of the Fibonacci retracement. So you can use these levels to understand where Bitcoin will go. Now, you can't just trade, for example, buy right here. You have to understand that we could go we could fall some more. And the best thing for us to do is to buy after it breaks the next resistance up, because it could bounce around inside of this level, and it's better for us to not buy at this level because it might fall down more. It's better for us to buy at a level where we know the bullish momentum will take it up, and that is after Bitcoin beats a huge resistance area. That signifies that Bitcoin had a huge, huge increase in bullish momentum. And that's exactly what we do not have right now. We have no bullish momentum. We have no bearish momentum. We cannot figure out what we're going to do. And we will figure that out in the next couple days. Now, have you tried 2D sequential with the RSI and stochastic RSI? Trade on Confluence has been a very good strategy for swings. Uh, I have tried to use the RSI and stochastic RSI. They're very good indicators to use together. They are very good indicators to use. I have them actually as default indicators for me, and I recommend them to be used by everybody else. You can use the RSI and stochastic RSI very well to understand where Bitcoin's going to go. And if we look at the daily time frame, you can see that the RSI is actually very, very low. But the stochastic RSI is still falling down. And that signifies that this trend has probably not ended yet. Of course, if the RSI does fall below 40, we do have a bigger chance for us to actually ending the bearish momentum, and in the short term, starting for us to rise up. But for now, we actually see, and I do think I did see a bearish divergence all the way up over here that is probably still causing us to fall down. A bearish divergence is when the price actually goes the opposite direction of an RSI indicator. Now, we had this bearish divergence all the way back over here, but the trend line is still continuing, which means we still follow the bearish divergence. And this bearish divergence, all it means is that Bitcoin will continue to fall down until the RSI breaks this trend line once again. And by the way, for any of you that do not know, trend lines could actually be written on indicators. For example, the RSI and stochastic RSI. They're not just for price indicators. They're not just for example, Bitcoin stocks and Forex. They could be written on anything. For example, RSI and stochastic RSI. And RSI and stochastic RSI is actually in the middle of its area between 80 and 20. This means that unless we flip over to the green line on top, we will continue to see this bearish momentum. But sometimes we actually do not reach the bottom part of this indicator. Like over here, we almost reached it, but decided to flip to the upside. But once we see a flip on the stochastic RSI, which basically means that the blue line goes on the top and the RSI breaks out above this level on the 45-point level. Once we see both of these indicators met and volume entering in, you can be 100% sure that the Bitcoin bull market, the next leg for Bitcoin, is about to happen. You can understand that the trend is about to reverse or something's going to happen. That's amazing indicators to use, the RSI and stochastic RSI. But unless we have any questions, if anybody wants to, you can write some questions in chat. Unless you guys have any questions, I will end the stream very, very shortly. But before I do that, I just want to take a quick look at Ethereum and talk about that. Because if we open up Ethereum, the Ethereum chart, and while we're doing that, I can have another sip of water. If we open up the Ethereum chart, and man, this is so unorganized, we can see that in the short term, we are also seeing this bearish momentum, this bearish recession, this bearish pause in Bitcoin before we will see a huge other trade, before we will see another leg up. Ethereum is also following this pattern like Bitcoin is doing, this bullish trend. And what I want to say is that the Fibonacci retracement also shows us how far down Ethereum's going to go. Fibonacci retracement can be used not just for Bitcoin, but for crypto and stocks, for everything. It's actually used in the real world too. And as you guys can see, Ethereum, not like Bitcoin, has actually reached 0.5. So technically, Ethereum could start rising up. Of course, 0.5 is the minimum for how far we usually fall down to. Usually we fall down to 0.618. That's the most likely thing, sometimes tapping 0.7. Let's look back in time for Ethereum this time and see how far it fell. What's actually, before I do that, what I actually realized is that Ethereum actually did not create a higher high. Its higher high was over here. Like Bitcoin, Bitcoin actually created a higher high right over here. Ethereum looks completely different. If I actually overlap Bitcoin and Ethereum, you can see that its pumps and dumps, they look a bit differently. You can see that this pump for Bitcoin rose much, much higher, almost tapping the previous level, compared to Ethereum, which looks like it has a slight downtrend. This could mean that Ethereum has a little bit more bearish momentum, and technically this could be the area for us to test, because unlike Bitcoin, which if you guys look at it, you can see that we could use the Fibonacci retracement at this level. For Ethereum, if you go zoom out and check the Bitcoin's levels, you can Ethereum's levels, you can actually get the Fibonacci retracement and bring it down from this trend to this trend high and bring and check the 0.618 level. And the fact that we have tapped the 0.618 level now could be a sign that Ethereum is about to start rising up, because Ethereum technically is inside of a falling wedge. Unlike Bitcoin, who looks like it's just having a downwards momentum, maybe having a bull flag, but just going sideways. Unlike Bitcoin, Ethereum does look like it's actually having a big pattern. Now, this is a bullish pattern. This is a very bullish pattern that could take us all the way up to 2,100, which is around the area of the previous top. If we do make it to the previous top, big chance on breaking it and making a higher high. But of course, for that to happen, we do need to break out of this level. And for that to happen, of course, we need momentum. And so we can check momentum by turning on volume. As you guys can see, there's no volume happening. Until we see some volume, we will not going anywhere. But this does not mean that Bitcoin or Ethereum is not going to go anywhere. In the short term, maybe not. But this trend right over here is continuing. You can see that technically this could be a higher high. I mean, a higher low and a higher high in the short term. This is a upwards trend in the short term, which could mean that Ethereum is looking very, very bullish. And for us to confirm this bullishness, we actually have to break out of this trend and possibly break out of the 0.382, which is at 1,870. If we reach $1,900, we could see a pump all the way up to 2,100. And with that being said, thank you to the 9Z for all the amazing questions that he has asked in this chat. Thank you for the shout out. And with that being said, I will end the stream very, very soon. I'll see you guys in the next stream. Leave a like down below if you really like this stream. I'll continue to do this daily, guys. But I am going camping with my family. I will still try to do live streams daily there, but we'll see how that goes with all the reception and stuff. But till then, till the next live stream, smash the like button, subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you in the next live stream. See ya!